You feel that something is missing, even when surrounded by people. You might be in a relationship with friends nearby, with family around, and still feel that silent weight in your chest, that strange absence, as if you were living behind glass, disconnected from the world and from yourself. This is not weakness. This is not common neediness. This is a deep sign, a muffled cry from your psyche trying to alert you. You are distant from your own soul. Carl Jung called this inner emptiness a kind of silent existential crisis that plagues the modern individual. He said that many of his patients did not show obvious clinical symptoms, but suffered from something more subtle and devastating: the loss of meaning, the collapse of connection with the inner symbolic world. And this inevitably reflects in your relationships, because when you disconnect from yourself, you start to expect the other to fill the void. You refuse to acknowledge. That's why bonds today seem so fragile, so easy to break, so full of frustrated expectations. People come together carrying needs they do not admit, projecting onto others what they lack internally. And when the other does not fulfill that role, when they do not heal the wound, do not fill the hole, do not meet the unconscious expectation, frustration, distance, and pain arise. The relationship collapses. But what crumbled there was not love. It was the fantasy. And this pattern repeats itself. You jump from relationship to relationship, or live within one that seems sterile, trying to reignite something that was never truly there. The problem is not with the people who crossed your path. It lies in what you have yet to recognize within yourself. It is in the shadow you have not integrated in the inner feminine. You reject in the unconscious. Masculine you project. It is in your soul, forgotten and suffocated by a life that only looks outward. This video will not give you an easy answer, because there is no easy answer to such a deep question. But it can show you the path Jung proposed, the way back inside. Because as long as you continue seeking outside for the cure to a void that is internal, you will remain trapped in the cycle of dissatisfaction. What you feel is not trivial. It is your unconscious trying to wake you up, and the time has come to listen. If you are ready, follow me. Let's descend together to the most hidden layers of your psyche. Because only there, in what you do not see, lies the key to what you feel. The most devastating psychological suffering of today is not explosive. It does not draw attention. It does not scream. It whispers day after day until the person becomes accustomed to the emptiness. You wake up, fulfill your obligations, talk to people, work, consume content, participate in social events. But all of this seems to be done by someone who is on autopilot. It's as if something is always absent. Even when everything apparently is in place, this suffering has no name. In traditional classifications of clinical psychology, it does not manifest with outbursts or visible collapses. It infiltrates slowly, silently, until life loses its flavor and shine. Carl Jung observed this phenomenon with disturbing clarity in The Modern Man in Search of a Soul. He reveals that many of his patients, although they did not present any diagnosable mental disorder, carried within them a profound sense of emptiness and uselessness. And the most shocking part, these people were often successful, productive, functional in the eyes of society. They had stable careers, relationships, prestige, but felt deep down that they were disconnected from something essential. What was missing was not love. It was not money. It was not recognition. It was soul. The soul, in Jungian thought, is not an abstract or religious concept. It is the symbolic dimension of existence. It is what gives depth to living, allowing each experience, no matter how simple, to be felt in its entirety, When this dimension is neglected, life becomes a succession of tasks, obligations, and performances. The individual adapts to the external world, but at the cost of a brutal internal impoverishment. And this, sooner or later, shows up sometimes as boredom, other times as chronic discouragement, in certain cases as a generalized dissatisfaction that destroys everything that has been built. And it is precisely in this state of existential anesthesia that relationships begin to fail. You expect the other to bring meaning for love, to rekindle the flame of life for companionship, to alleviate the invisible burden of existence. But the other cannot fulfill this role because they too very likely carry the same emptiness. And the encounter between two beings disconnected from their own soul inevitably generates frustration, conflict, and abandonment. Burden of existence. But the other cannot fulfill this role because they too very likely carry the same emptiness, and the encounter between two beings disconnected from their own soul inevitably generates frustration, conflict, and abandonment. We need to understand how relationships are, in fact, living mirrors of our internal fragmentation. This is what we will explore in the next part, if this content is making sense to you. Click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Human relationships, no matter how real and intense they may seem, often amount to mere psychic enactments when you enter a bond carrying parts of yourself that you have yet to recognize. What you do not want to see in yourself ends up being projected onto the other. You think you are falling in love with someone, but in reality, you are falling in love with an internal reflection that has never been integrated. You believe you are hating someone else's attitude, when in fact, you are coming into contact with a shadow that has always been repressed within you. This is not cheap romanticism, it is deep psychology. Carl Jung warns us that most relationships are built on unconscious projections. You do not see the other as they are, but as your psyche needs them to be. This other then becomes a receptacle for everything that is disorganized within you. Unacknowledged desires, unhealed wounds, unprocessed traumas, unresolved childhood needs. You demand charge, idealize control, not because you love, but because you are desperately trying to obtain from the other something that you could only find within yourself. That is why many relationships begin with enchantment and end in destruction. In the beginning, the projection is beautiful. The person seems perfect, complete, magical. They represent psychic salvation, the symbolic return to the lost paradise. But as time passes and coexistence reveals reality, the projected image begins to crumble, and with that disappointment arises frustration, anger. You wonder, how has this person changed so much? But the truth is that they have not changed. You are the one who has begun to see beyond the projection. This mechanism operates in romantic relationships, as well as in friendships, family bonds, and even in the workplace. We project authority onto bosses, idealize parents, demonize colleagues, seek approval from friends, all as a way to try to internally reorganize what has never been integrated. And the more we deny this process, the more enslaved we become to it. None of this is done out of malice. It is done out of ignorance about oneself. Human beings, when they are not aware of the contents they carry in the unconscious, end up living governed by them. And one of the most powerful archetypes that operate in this relational scenario is precisely the one Jung called anima, and animus representations of the feminine in the masculine psyche and the masculine in the feminine psyche. It is these archetypal forces that, when unrecognized, distort our most intimate relationships. They make us love blindly, hate without reason, become emotionally dependent, or flee from involvement. And to understand how they silently shape our deepest connections, we need to confront their functioning head. On that is what we will do in the next part. We will dive even deeper into the realms of anima and animus within every human being. There are psychic polarities that, when unrecognized, silently take control. Jung referred to these forces as anima and animus, two fundamental archetypes of the collective unconscious. They are not just symbolic concepts. They are living energies that shape our way of loving, desiring, fighting, and relating. When they are in balance, they serve as bridges between the ego and the unconscious. But when they are repressed or unknown, they turn relationships into emotional battlefields laden with idealizations, frustrations, and destructive repetitions. The anima is the archetypal image of the feminine in the man's psyche. It is not about the external woman, but about everything. The man projects onto women emotions, sensitivity, intuition, mystery, beauty, danger. When the anima is not integrated, it acts autonomously, causing the man to seek in external women an idealized figure that corresponds to his unconscious fantasy. He falls in love with shadows, with symbols, with pieces of himself that he has refused to integrate, and when the real woman fails to match this internal image, which always happens, because no woman can carry the soul of another man, resentment, distance, and contempt arise. The same woman who was once adored as a muse becomes hated as a threat. The animus, on the other hand, represents the archetype of the masculine in the woman's psyche. This figure manifests as critical thinking, formed opinion, and authority action. When the animus is unconscious, it dominates the woman from within, causing her to see external men as enemies, dominators, or saviors who must solve her life. This generates relationships based on submission, aggression, or emotional dependence. In this case, the woman does not engage with the real man in front of her, but with an inner masculine figure that distorts her perceptions and fuels conflicts. These forces are neither good nor bad. They are necessary, but when they operate without awareness, they completely distort the way we perceive the other. The anima makes the man seek completeness in the external feminine, when in fact he should seek it within. The animus makes the woman struggle with external masculine figures when the true battle is internal. The result is always the same: broken relationships, repetition of patterns, an endless cycle of seeking and frustration. Integrating the anima and animus is therefore a crucial step in the process of individuation. This means recognizing these internal images, dialoguing with them, giving them form and awareness. A man who integrates becomes more empathetic, creative, and emotionally profound. A woman who integrates her animus develops confidence, assertiveness, and rational clarity without needing to fight with the world. But this integration requires courage. It requires coming into contact with the contents that have been denied throughout life. It requires renouncing the childish idea that the other will come to complete you, because the other is not your salvation. They can only be your companion on the journey if you have already begun to walk alone. And as long as these internal forces remain unconscious, you will continue to seek outside what is missing. Inside, you will continue to feed the illusion that love heals the wound of the soul. But what Jung shows us is the opposite. First, you heal the soul. Then you learn to love and to understand why this illusion of external completeness is so powerful and so dangerous. We need to face it head on. That is what we will do. In the next part, From an early age, we are taught subtly or explicitly that somewhere in the world there is someone who will complete us. This idea, deeply rooted in Western culture, is repeated ad nauseum in movies, songs, novels, and even superficial therapeutic speeches. Romantic love has been elevated to the status of psychic salvation. No matter how fragmented, needy, or empty you may feel, they say that when you find the right person, everything will fall into place. This myth is dangerous. It feeds a childish fantasy that healing lies outside of us, that the other will come as a redeeming hero or heroine willing to rescue us from ourselves. Carl Jung unmasked this illusion with brutal honesty. For him, seeking completeness in another is a sophisticated form of evasion from one's own psyche. Love, when born from need, transforms into possession, control, and suffering. What we call passion is often just a violent projection of the unintegrated or animus. You are not loving the person in front of you. You are loving an internal image that your psyche has projected onto them. This explains why you often get involved with people who rationally make no sense, or why you are brutally disappointed when the other inevitably does not match the fantasy. This illusion of external completeness is a psychic trap. It keeps you in an endless cycle of searching and frustration. When a relationship fails, the mind seeks another object of desire, believing that the problem was the wrong person. And so you go on jumping from relationship to relationship, accumulating pain, resentment, and a growing sense that true love may not even exist. But love has not failed you. You have confused it with healing. Jung said that every projection is an opportunity for growth. When you are disappointed with the other, it is your psyche returning what you tried to cast out. It is the unconscious saying, look, within the emptiness you feel will not be filled by anyone, neither by the ideal partner, nor by the perfect lover, nor by momentary connections masked as depth. No human being has the obligation nor the capacity to heal your internal split. True completeness is a state of consciousness. It arises from the integration of opposites within oneself: reason and emotion, strength and vulnerability, light and shadow, anima and animus. When this happens, the other ceases to be a remedy and becomes a mirror, someone with whom you share the journey, not someone who walks for you. But this journey is not linear. It requires facing oneself. It demands crossing the desert of one's own soul without guarantees, without external promises. And the name of this path in Jungian psychology is individuation, the process by which you stop seeking in the other what you can only find within yourself. It is the transition from love need to love consciousness. In the next part, we will dive deep into this symbolic journey that Jung called individuation, the path that leads from fragmentation to wholeness, a profound, painful, and at the same time liberating process, the only real route to transform your relationships and, above all, your own existence. If what you're hearing resonates with you, subscribe for more. You have spent your entire life trying to fit in, trying to be good enough for others, trying to meet family expectations, trying to find a safe place within unstable relationships. And in the midst of all this, you lost touch with the one thing that could truly sustain you, your soul. Jung shows us that as long as we remain focused only outward, seeking recognition, love, security, and validation, we will live disconnected from the totality of our being. True transformation begins when you turn your gaze inward, when you stop running away from yourself and start the process of individuation. Individuation is not self-help. It is not a quick fix. It is not about becoming your best version in the eyes of the world. It is a symbolic deep and painful journey towards reconciliation with everything you have repressed, denied, or feared within yourself. It is the path back to wholeness, a return not to what you want to be, but to what you are in all your complexity. During individuation, you are called to integrate the fragmented aspects of the psyche, the ego, with the unconscious, the persona, with the shadow, the inner masculine, with the inner feminine. Each step in this process requires confronting uncomfortable truths, your contradictions, your rejected impulses, your repressed emotions, your unprocessed traumas. It is in this dive that you find what truly moves you and also what silently sabotages you. It is in this journey that the anima and animus lose the power to project fantasies onto others and begin to function as internal guides. The shadow once feared becomes a source of power, and the ego, once inflated or fragile, learns to dialogue with the deeper layers of the soul. This is the turning point when you stop blaming the world or others for your suffering and begin to understand that healing can only come from within, and most importantly, when you start to relate not from a place of lack, but from a place of wholeness. This changes everything because you no longer need the other to feel alive, seen, or loved. You have already found within yourself what you were desperately seeking outside relationships cease to be attempts at salvation and become spaces of truth, encounters between two whole beings, self-aware, willing to grow together and not to devour each other, but to walk this path. Maturity is required. It is necessary to abandon the comfort of illusion and face the discomfort of authenticity. It is necessary to accept that the other will not come to save you, and that this, contrary to what it seems, is a liberation. Now that you understand the depth of this process, it is time to face the hardest truth of all. As long as you run away from yourself, no relationship will work. No love will be enough. No company will suffice. And it is precisely this truth that we will reveal without anesthesia. In the final part of this journey, there comes a moment when you need to face the reality you've tried to avoid your whole life. No matter how much someone loves you, no matter how hard you try to keep a relationship alive, no matter how much you idealize the other. No relationship, no matter how intense or sincere, will save you from yourself. This is a harsh but liberating truth, because as long as you are still looking for salvation in someone else's love, you will remain trapped in a cycle of expectation and frustration that drains the soul. The healing you seek is not in the other. It is in you. It is in the moment you sit with yourself and stop running away. It is in the time you face the inner silence without needing to distract yourself. It is in the instant you look at your own shadow and decide not to project it onto anyone else anymore. From there, everything begins to change, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Relationships are not the problem, they are the mirror. They reveal, with surgical precision, what is misaligned within your psyche. When you feel invisible in a relationship, perhaps you are blind to yourself. When you feel that the other does not listen to you, it may be because you haven't listened to your own soul for years when you are repeatedly disappointed. Perhaps you are expecting someone to play a role that only you can fulfill. The good news is that you no longer need to remain trapped in this cycle. The process of individuation, the journey of becoming whole, has already begun. When you decided to stop and listen to this message, this in itself is a sign that something within you no longer wants to live. Anesthetized, it no longer wants to repeat the same mistakes. It wants to awaken. But awakening hurts. It requires courage to let go of comforting illusions. It requires commitment to the truth, even when it dismantles all the fantasies you've built about love, about the other, about yourself. The emptiness you feel is not a punishment. It is a call to descend into the deeper layers of your psyche and reclaim what has been lost. Your soul, when you make this move, when you stop seeking completeness outside and start cultivating it within, something changes deeply. You begin to attract connections that do not require, closer to people who do not come to fill you but to overflow with you. You finally learn to love not from neediness, but from presence. If this message resonated with you, comment below. I choose to look within. Share this video with someone who needs to break free from this cycle of silent pain, and subscribe to the channel. Because here we do not speak to entertain, we speak to transform. And don't stop here, because knowing is not enough. You must keep digging, and you know the soul does not forgive those who stop halfway. So keep going. The next step awaits you. Like and subscribe to Mind Paradox for your betterment.